I titled it Backendless Platform Roadmap because the majority of the content I will be covering is related to the roadmap. There are some deviations, but all in all, it's going to be mostly roadmap related stuff. Specifically, let's dig in. The agenda that I have for today is a new pricing plan that we have prepared for Backendless Cloud. Then fairly large topic with some demos on new stuff that we have been working on that I titled Backendless Business Suite and Automations. That's the part where I will be doing some demos. And then we're going to talk about Backendless Pro. There's a new thing coming in Backendless Pro that we call Community Edition. So we'll be announcing that, and we'll talk about that as well. So as far as the pricing plan, what we have today in Backendless Cloud is what we call scale plan. And if you're not on Cloud 99 plan, which will be phased out at the end of this month, you are either on the free or on the scale plan. And then to go over what the scale plan entails today, it basically consists of a pricing that is calculated daily based on the peak usage within 24-hour period. So if there is a spike in the 24-hour period, then that spike ends up in a certain tier in terms of how many requests per minute were processed during that spike. And that sets the price for the next 24 or for the current 24-hour period. And then at the end of the billing cycle, which is 30 days, we basically sum all the daily charges, and that becomes the monthly bill. So here, for illustration purposes, and I will use this chart throughout the presentation, this shows a usage of an application over 30 days where these tiers were engaged, and it shows how many days were spent in each individual tier, and then you get the grand total for the usage of that application. And then since we've been monitoring the system to see how apps are using, and one of the most important things that we wanted to bring out with the scale plan is the fact that performance is important, because a lot of developers, a lot of people were just neglecting performance because it didn't really matter. So performance now is important, and we see a lot of people paying attention to how chatty their applications are, how API calls are being used, and then optimizations are taking place, which is fantastic. Now, there are some deficiencies with the current plan. The fact that it's hard to predict, and it may seem unfair that their single spike in a 24-hour period determines the price for the whole day. I know a lot of people were quite unhappy about it, and I totally understand from their perspective. So what we are doing is we're basically introducing a new plan, which is a variation of the scale plan that we call scale plan fixed. And with the fixed plan, it is going to be a fixed monthly price. And that price is determined by a tier that you select. So the same tiers that we have with the scale plan, which the current plan, by the way, will be called scale plan variable, because it varies, every day determines the price. With a fixed plan, you determine the top tier that your app is going to be in. So let's say you select that your app is going to be in tier 5, and then there is a fixed price, fixed monthly price for that tier. And then if there are any overages above tier 5, then those overages are going to be charged only for the hour when they occur. And every hour and every tier that your app spikes into will have a price that is determined by the tier that it goes into and the tier that your app is in, like the fixed tier. And if there's some under usage, let's say if you selected tier 5, but your app spends the whole month in tier 4, then under usage is not being credited. So you would have to kind of see where your app is and make the best guess, I would say. Well, it will be an educated guess, because, and we'll cover why, because you will have plenty of tools to determine where the best tier for your app can be. Now, so how does it work, price wise? So this is the scale variable plan, and you see there's daily price, And then if the app stays in that tier for the whole month, these are going to be the monthly prices. These are the monthly prices for the scale fixed. And then you will see that they are lower than the variable. So for instance, if we stay with the same tier 5, and that's $295 per day, monthly $88.50, then on the fixed, it's going to be $70 for tier 5 for the month. And then you can see that pretty much for every single tier, the price here is lower. Now, the question is, well, what happens with the overages? How are they calculated? So here, with overages, as I said, the overage fee is charged for every overage hour. And then the fee that is charged based on two things. It is not like, for overage into tier 8 is always the same. No. The hourly fee for the overage is based on two things. One is where that overage goes into what tier, and what your current tier is. Why did we do it this way? Because we wanted to discourage the scenario where people would select tier 1, which is $15 a month. And then if there is a fixed price for no matter what tier it goes into, then everyone would be sitting in tier 1 and just pay the hourly fee. So what we are doing is the hourly overage fee is lower. Like, let's say if you're in tier 5 and it goes into tier 6, then that hourly fee is going to be the lowest for tier 5. If you're in tier 1 and it goes into tier 6, then the hourly fee is going to be higher. And I will demonstrate it over the next couple of slides. But here, let's take this example for the same chart, usage chart that I had in the previous slide. So with the scale variable, it is $217.40 per month. On the scale fixed, let's say if you pick tier 5, which is $70 per month, and assuming that these overages happen once a day, like last only 1 hour, then we will have for tier 6, 7 occurrences, and it's 30 cents per hour. For tier 7, 2 occurrences, and you can see there are 2, and then so on. So what this ends up being is that for exactly the same usage on the fixed plan, it will end up being $83.20, which is $70 per month, and then $13.20 for overages. And as a result, it is $83.20 compared to $217.40 on the variable. So there is a rather significant difference into how the price is calculated. However, there is even more room here to play with, and you will have the tools to do that. And for this, let me switch to the next slide. So again, exactly the same usage. If you selected tier 5, $70 per month, we did this calculation on the previous slide. However, if you selected tier 4, which is $55 per month, notice that, let's say for tier 6, we charge here 30 cents per hour. Now, if you are on 4, tier 6 is actually 60 cents per hour. But when you add up all the overages, you still actually save even more than on tier 5. So here, on being on tier 4, for this usage, it is going to be $76.85. Now, important assumption here is that each overage for the calculation purposes here happens only, lasts only 1 hour. Again, this is for demonstration purposes. So in Backendless Console, you will have the tools to actually see what the estimate will be based on the selected top tier plan. So from the user experience perspective, once this plan is rolled out, here are the changes you will see. Number 1, on the billing screen, there's going to be scale fixed, where you can actually select the tier that will determine the monthly price for your app. That's number 1. Second, just like with the current scale plan, which will be renamed to scale variable, you can establish the threshold. So if there is an overage that goes into the certain tier, and you do not want to process those requests and just reject them, just so you have more predictable billing, and you're okay with some errors being sent back to the app, then you can select this threshold, and that will just determine what the top overage threshold is. And your threshold could actually be the same tier that you selected, and this will basically make the price just fixed price without any additional overages. And then finally, on the analytics screen, just like today, we have the scale plan estimate. We're adding an estimate for the scale fixed. And in here, you can play with it just to see where you would be better off. So you select your fixed tier, and then for any overages that took place in the past 30 days, you can get an estimate of what that bill would look like had you been on a specific fixed tier. So with all of this, that should provide plenty of information to can determine where you want to be. And I recommend, especially if your application is growing, where things change month to month, just come back to the analytics screen, check where you are, and make the appropriate changes. If your app is more or less kind of it exhibits the same usage month to month, then just picking one tier and then staying with it will give you that more or less predictable pricing, way more predictable than with the current scale plan. So that's the change that we're introducing. Tentatively, it will go out on May 1st. So right now we are in the final stages of testing and just publishing some articles on the website, just so all the information is out there and you have everything that you need to know to kind of understand how that pricing works. So that's the first part of the presentation. So if there are any questions, please ask away. And then meanwhile, I'll just switch to the next section of the presentation. And that one is Backendless Business Suite and automations. Okay, so this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. And these initiatives have started more than a year ago. And lately, we have been rather silent just because there's been a lot of stuff that we can just needed to think about how it is all packaged up and presented to the users. But we're getting ready to start kind of unveiling everything that we've been working on. So Backendless Business Suite, it consists of primarily of three elements. And these are quick apps, visualizations, and dashboards. I will demonstrate some of these today. All of them are heavily driven by AI. Like AI is all over these solutions. Okay, and it's built primarily for business users in mind. Okay, where everything else that we've been doing so far is primarily targeted at app developers and people who build solutions. So these are the ones where we try to address the needs of business people. Okay, so and then as far as the automations, it's a fairly complete solution. It's not tailored specifically to the Backendless platform. It works with many other elements and services that exist outside of Backendless. And then at the top level, there is an automation editor. It is all drag and drop, highly visual. There is an engine that runs those automations, and there is a system that provides a way to establish SLAs, establish the compliance rules. It does all the monitoring and reporting for the SLAs and then the rules that you would want to establish for your enterprise. Okay. Then the question is, how does all this fit together into the Backendless platform? So this diagram should illustrate how we envision the whole thing working together. So all of this is the Backendless platform. The Backendless, as you know today, is now going to be sitting right here in this box that we titled Backendless Development System. So this is where your database is, user management, messaging, UI builder, file service, business logic, and so on. So that's the Backendless Development System. Right next to it is Business Suite that, as I said, has quick apps, visualizations, and dashboards. And then the automations are also sitting right here to automate the business workflows and so on. Okay. All of these elements, automations, Business Suite, and development system, they sit on top of our marketplace. And the marketplace is becoming a lot more important than we have envisioned before. By the way, SLA is a service level agreement. So for instance, an example of an SLA is you may have a contract for a customer that let's say support requests or any incidents need to be resolved within 24-hour period. And then any kind of inquiry or support request needs to go through certain stages, and there is a certain workflow where someone needs to do the first time to first response, and then handling the issue, and then documenting it, creating some kind of document, emailing it to the user, getting the confirmation. So there could be a workflow for handling any kind of business process. And then in some business processes, there may be contractual obligations to handle them within a specified period of time. And that could be in terms of the response time, number of errors, downtime, a lot of stuff. So here with automations, you can describe what those rules are that govern your relationship with the customers. Okay. Now, and that's what this lays, and you can describe those rules, and then we monitor them. We inform you about any non-compliance or near non-compliance conditions. You can specify what happens when you are in the near non-compliance or you are in non-compliance, like how all of that should be handled, and the automations handle all of those issues. Okay, so that's the SLA and automations. Now, the marketplace as it exists today in relationship to the Backendless development system, which is Backendless as you know it today. In the marketplace, you could have your deployment models, which is API services or any kind of business logic, UI components, UI themes. You could have custom functions for the UI, and we're expanding that to a lot more. Okay, and specifically to address any kind of extensibility points that would exist either in the business suite or in the automations. Okay, so for instance, with automations, if you need to integrate an external system, and typically any kind of automation will consist of at the very minimum of two things. One, there is going to be a trigger, and there is an action, which really corresponds to kind of an if, then, else type of statement. So both triggers and actions could be deployed as a service into Backendless. And I think some of you may have already noticed that when you publish a codeless API service, there is a checkbox that says register as an automation action, and that's what it is. It kind of slipped in there inadvertently, but that's okay. We're getting some test cases out of that anyway. So highly extensible system, but I will jump to some demos so you can actually see how things work. Okay, now. So before I go next, let me actually switch and run some demonstrations. I will show you what automations look like today. I will show you a couple of dashboards so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. We don't have actual dates of when that's going to be released, but we are getting quite close. And then there are some other things a lot of other things that need to be solved first, but I really would like to demonstrate it to you just to bounce it off so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And let's start with dashboards first. So in dashboards, I'm going to create a new dashboard, and let's call it demo dashboard 1. And with this dashboard, I will generate, and then everybody understands the concept of dashboards, but with this dashboard, what I will do is I will demonstrate how you can generate a dashboard for, let's say, data that sits inside of Backendless. So in here, I'm going to go into, and by the way, this is like live demo, and if something goes wrong, it's not even beta, right? So in here, this is adding a dashlet that works with by the way, with Marketplace. So you can publish into Marketplace your custom dashlet visualizations and kind of data sources. So Backendless data is a dashlet that knows how to work with a database, with Backendless database. So in here for the application that I'm in, and this is the application that we use for training purposes, whenever you can actually create one and it has a database schema and so on. And then there are 3 different ways that you can visualize data. This one is called AI Assistant. So in here, I'm going to select a table and say generate dashlet ideas. So based on the selection, AI will actually analyze the schema of the database and some data, and will suggest the dashlets that you can use to visualize this data. This will be enhanced where we'll actually be asking the user for their role, and then tailor the generated ideas based on the user role. So here I'm going to link this, actually just add another table and say, well, generate more dashlet ideas. So all of these are going to be individual visualizations of the data that exists in my database. Okay, so and you can just keep on generating these dashlets. And here, let me just select all. Some may not work because again, this is all still just an early preview. But once I click create dashlets, this will just go out and grab all this data. And if I go to, let's say, last 12 months, there you go. So you can start seeing some data that is there. And this is kind of boring because it just randomly select the data. But still, you get the idea that for whatever data that you have, it will generate these ideas. Now, you can actually rather than using AI, you can drive this data creation by yourself by saying, okay, I want to start with data. So I'm going to select a specific table, and then it automatically says, well, these are all the visualizations that you can do. And you can say, well, I'm interested only in count and sum. So it will say, okay, well, these are visualizations. But you can say, well, in addition to customer, also make sure that there is a country. I don't know if they're really related or not, and it will automatically generate all of these ideas. But if you want to start with UI, you can say, well, I want to generate a chart over time, and this is going to be the chart type and so on. And then it will generate that as well. And for all of these, what you can do is you can take this and open it up in a new page and just use that as a dashboard. Okay, and then with these, you can just resize your dashlets. You can easily move them around, lay out any way you want to. You can go and change in the settings and apply a different theme. So if you want to go like red light, I'm not sure what that is going to be, but it will re-render in a different color. So all of these are customized. Another way that you can visualize data, and we're not restricting it just to the Backendless database. For instance, here I have just a CSV file that I grabbed somewhere from online, and apparently it consists of some orders. I actually haven't even tried it myself. So what I'm going to do is I will create another dashboard, and I will call it Demo Dashboard 2. And in here, I will create a dashboard from a CSV data. So here I select CSV, and I will take this URL, and in here, I'll just paste this URL for the CSV and let it process that CSV and suggest some visualizations as well. And again, here you can work with AI, or you can start with actual data and then derive some visualizations, or you can say, okay, I want to start with UI, and you say, well, it's going to be a line chart or pie chart or whatever, and it will generate those visualizations for you. So here, once it actually processes everything, here are the dashlets that it came up with, the AI did, and you can assign additional data types, and it will tune the ideas to visualize based on this. But let's just go with what it came up with and create dashlets. And now it will actually perform all the aggregations, perform all the number crunching to create this visualization. We have not even done any work on the speed optimization, but as you can see, just out of the box, it generated some interesting visualizations for the orders that it pulled from that random CSV. Every single one of these dashlets, including the actual dashboard itself, can be customized for retrieving data. So if you go into this, generally you can say, well, update every 1 minute, and it will start polling and retrieving this data just to make it a live dashboard. So these capabilities are huge. And there is for those who are developers, there is a composer here where you can actually create a new dashlet, and it will give you like a code editor for JavaScript, where you can just create your own dashlet visualization, publish it into the marketplace for free or for a fee, and then let other users work with your visualization. So there are multiple data sources that we will support right from the first version, as I have demonstrated: CSV, Backendless data, Airtable, Google Sheets. Like all of those are going to be included in the first version. And here you can create the security permissions for who can see it. You may say that it's going to be a login is going to be required in order to use it, and so on. So that's dashboards. Again, if you have any questions, please send them to the chat pod. But then I'm going to switch to the automations to demonstrate what our automations look like. So here in the automations, I'm going to create a new flow. A flow is basically one specific workflow. And in here, you can see that this drag and drop interface. These are the triggers that the system will wait until they happen. So external callback basically gives you a URL. Here's the URL that would need to be invoked in order to trigger that automation. And then from here on, we can say, well, once this URL occurs, then send an email, and then you can connect it to the send email, and then save something in the database, and it will save it in Backendless. Once it is saved in Backendless, let's just run some API service, okay? And you can connect it and say, well, after sending email, also run the same API service, and so on. So here you can create a flow that has multi branches with the complexity to the nth degree, and it will run it. There is a test mode that you can switch into and run each individual block, and it will show you what the results are. You can instrument the results. There is a very powerful mechanism for data transformation. So here's transform data, and in here there is like all of these. Oops. So for this transform data, there is just a gazillion number of different operations for how you can do data transformation. You can chain these together. There is an ability to do error handling. You can do grouping of the actions. So for instance, if I just connect transform data and do actions group, and then from here, so actions group. So actions group is interesting because you can go into this actions group and then execute all of these blocks together. There is no specific order because it is a group. But what you can do is you can say, for whatever happens after action group, let's say we will be waiting on some trigger, okay? In here, you can say, well, this will occur only when all of the actions in that group have started. Or you can say, well, for this action group, it's going to be transition will occur only after all of them have completed, and that's when this transition will happen. So you can see there is a lot of complexity that is already built in. There is a fairly powerful integration with AI here as well that I cannot demonstrate yet, but there will be an ability to do data processing, file processing, invoice generation, parsing of files, analytical capabilities for when you throw in a file and it will generate code to process that file. So all of that is there. And that's the automation. For every single element here, for instance, the save record in database, you can create SLA conditions. And so here you can say, well, this is going to be conditioned that the failure rate exceeds 50% over the past one day. And then when this happens, you can say, well, when this happens, execute one of these actions, either send an email, call another flow, and in that flow, you can handle what happens when that SLA is violated. So this is going to be a super, super powerful system that I would say that we're about 70–80% done before we can start releasing it. All of these guys are expandable. You can actually, when you install a service from the marketplace, and if that service is registered to be an action, it will automatically show up here, so you can start expanding your flows with custom actions. So that's the automations. Other things I cannot demonstrate yet, partially because there is other stuff that I want to talk about, and we may be running out of time. All right, so this is, again, automations, business suite, development system, all sitting on top of the marketplace. Next, the next item that I want to talk about is Backendless Pro. If you're not familiar with Backendless Pro, it is a version of Backendless. that you can launch anywhere on your own laptop, on your own servers, in the cloud. It runs anywhere where Kubernetes runs. None of the limits that you would find in our pricing plans apply, so it's limitless. It's going to be limited by the memory and CPU that of the server or cluster that you installed it. There are two different modes. It can be either single server, where all of the elements of the Backendless stack run on a single physical server. Virtualized, you can have your Kubernetes pods, but it's still single physical server deployment. Or you can have it clustered for high availability, where every single element of the stack is replicated. There is now a visual installer. There's a UI environment for installing Backendless Pro, for configuring it, for running upgrades, and that is called Pro Manager. So actually installing Backendless Pro now is super simple, just one command line that runs Pro Manager, and everything is done in the UI itself. So what's new with Backendless Pro? And then the new thing is that we're introducing Community Edition. It applies only to single server installation. We're actually granting free perpetual licensing. So yes, Backendless Pro is becoming absolutely free. No strings attached. You can just run it on your server. What's the catch? Well, the catch is that if you want support and upgrades, that requires a maintenance subscription. So we're basically turning Backendless Pro for single server, not for clustered, for single server, into a free product that will be driven by primarily maintenance revenue for support and upgrades. We're still working out different terms for support and upgrades. That will be all unveiled fairly soon. There is an ability to migrate your application from cloud to pro. That is very easy. It's available today when you go to Backendless console. Right in the main screen of your application, you will see a button that says generate zip. That will create a zip file that includes absolutely everything from your app, and you can bring that zip into your pro installation and recreate your app inside of your pro installation. So what are the next steps? We are finishing documentation, working out support plans, as I mentioned, working on the new help desk solution, because since it's going to be paid subscription for support, I believe that the form that we have just will not cut it. We'll need to have something more suitable for professional support. And after all of these done, which will be about a month, we will be doing complete new release of Backendless Pro that comes with free licenses. So as far as architecture, what are the boundaries of Backendless Pro as it will be rolled out? So this Backendless development system, basically as Backendless is known to you today, without all the new stuff, and the marketplace. So that's Backendless Pro. So all of your applications, since you're not using any automations, you're not using any business suite, that's they can run inside of Backendless Pro, no problem. Okay. Now these elements, they will appear in the cloud first, but then we will be making them as a part of Backendless Enterprise version of Pro, because there will be Community and Enterprise. And then you can still run it on your servers, but that will require an enterprise license. Okay, so that's kind of the vision that we have for how Backendless Pro will be evolving in the future. So the red boundary, it's the Backendless Pro Community Edition. And then, of course, the entire Backendless platform is also available in Backendless Pro in the enterprise version. So that concludes all the slides that I have prepared. Let me switch to the chat section and see if there are any questions that I can answer. And if you can think of any additional questions, we still have about, say, maybe 15, 20 minutes. So I'll be happy to answer them all. Question here, can I add app purchases like enhanced script code execution time to any tier in scale fixed? Yes. So if you are on a scale fixed, you can purchase absolutely anything and everything from the marketplace. There are no limitations or restrictions there whatsoever. Does the intro of Business Suite suggest that the UI components currently available have been updated? No, that doesn't actually mean that. So with Business Suite, one thing that I did not go a whole lot into is the quick apps idea. So quick apps is a part of Business Suite. So right here, you see this quick apps. And quick apps is sort of a version. It's not really a version, it's a complete rebuild. But conceptually, it is an environment that you can use to build business level UIs without any coding, without any codeless, without any kind of programming that is required. It's all done just by drag and drop and connecting components together at the visual level to say, this is what they visualize and this is what they do. So you can create business level apps, data entry, data visualization, data processing, using quick apps, using nothing but drag and drop. Some components that we already have will apply to quick apps. Definitely data grid. There is this new smart form. We've done, I don't know if you noticed, we've done quite a bit of work on adding new data types in Backendless. There's a signature type, there's image type, percent, color. If you go to the data section of the console, you'll notice a lot of new data types. We're adding a couple of AI-driven data types that will be rolled out fairly soon. They will automatically create content for your columns based on the prompt. So there's that. So all of those are done really with the thinking that the quick apps will be benefiting them the most. But as far as the existing components that exist in the UI builder, those are done specifically for developers building UIs with Backendless. Quick apps in the business suite is primarily for a completely different type of users, business users who are not developers at all. They just need quick niche solution to streamline their business. Next question: can we integrate pieces of Business Suite into our app under construction? Yes, that's the idea. So let's say if you create a dashboard, that dashboard can run outside of Backendless console. It will have its own URL, so you can incorporate it into your existing application. Visualizations. Visualizations are quite interesting. We're adding a lot of visualizations, such as calendars and heat maps and Kanban and Gantt, a lot of visualizations for the data that you have. And we are going above and beyond of the data that is in Backendless. So we'll be incorporating, again, CSV, Airtable, Google Sheets. So we're opening up our world to be above and beyond of just the Backendless database, kind of encompassing everybody. And then the visualizations that you can create, you will be able to incorporate them to your existing applications. Next question. It's more of a comment. Alex, if you want, I can read it to everybody, but I'll first let me read it myself. All right, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it, Alex. How does workflows work with pricing tiers? It's a great question. So workflows will work the current thinking, and that may change. Workflows will, that is automations, will have more or less similar pricing as you would find with tools like Zapier or Make Integromat, but way more reasonable. I believe Zapier and Make are quite expensive, so we'll make it way more reasonable, but it's going to be along the same lines where the pricing is based on a number of individual steps or actual actions that a workflow is composed of. James, yes, I agree. It is quite abusive, and we want to make it reasonable. So, and you will be able to, with workflows, the way they look today, you can do a couple of different things. You can actually build your API services with workflows without any coding, as you can see, just by stringing actions together. And bring those workflows into create a codeless service, and inside of the codeless service, there's going to be a blog just to invoke a workflow. We're adding a codeless blog just to call a workflow. So you can do that, and with that, it's going to be basically the pricing of a workflow will be taking over without the charges coming from the tiers. These are the parts that we are looking at very carefully because they have to, given the fact that there are different ways to work with the platform today. That's the part that is quite challenging. The current thinking is that, let's say with Backendless Business Suite, that will have just a fixed price per user per month. Without any tiers, without any API usage, like all of that included, you basically pay per business user per month. With automations, it's probably going to be along the same pricing model as with Zapier. And Backendless development system, it's scale fixed, scale variable. And then there are a lot of kinks to work out as to how whenever the overlaps occur, how they're going to be handled. So that's where we're spending a good amount of time today, just working through and thinking about these scenarios. So Pro at the moment is about $1,000 per month. Will the maintenance support subscription be in the same pricing neighborhood? Great question. So we want to make it available in a way where for individuals, it's going to be one price. For organizations, another price, because $1,000 per month at the current level may not be affordable to everyone, especially if it is a solo coder or someone who's just starting without the business. It will be hard to afford, but we want to make it affordable. And another idea is that we want to perhaps possibly, and that's the current thinking that may change, is to split one charge for support, another charge for upgrades. So you can get support, and if you're happy with the current version, then you can just delay your upgrades. However, upgrades are going to be important because if a version becomes old and stale and you're still sitting on it, it's going to be much harder for us to support it. So there will be some sort of clause where you cannot fall behind over a certain number of versions. So you would have to upgrade. The question is whether you can move from Backendless Pro to Cloud. Yes, exactly the same mechanism as migrating from Cloud to Pro. You can use it to migrate from Pro to Cloud. So this is the in-console, you generate the zip, and then use that zip to migrate into the cloud. And in fact, in the cloud, you can generate a zip to migrate from Europe to US and from US to Europe and vice versa. So that generate zip functionality is there to essentially just move your application to a different environment where Backendless runs. So these are all the questions we have at the moment. Another question that just came, hold on, people are still coming. When will automations and Business Suite will go live? I would say, and I hate to give kind of a very vague estimates, but as precise as it can be, it will probably be sometime in Q2 of this year. So it's like by I hope by midsummer we will have it out, maybe sooner, because there is still quite a bit of stuff to be done. It's a big undertaking. More than likely, automations will be released first in some kind of beta, and after that, we'll be releasing Business Suite. The Cloud 99 will, there's a question of what will happen with Cloud 99 at the end of this month. So Cloud 99 ceases to exist. All applications will automatically migrate to Cloud variable, and by that time, on May 1st, there will be Cloud fixed, and you can just pick a tier and switch to fixed. But Cloud 99 will stop to exist at the end of this month. All right, guys, I'm going to be stopping the presentation. Have a great day, and let's keep in touch.